Hi, I'm Lynn.
And I'm Amanda. And this is the Pursuit of Badasserie, the podcast.
This podcast is all about taking action and creating that badass business abundance and life that you want.
Where we share stories, laughs, wins, and epic fails to show you the whole picture of the entrepreneurial journey.
It's not just unicorns and rainbows, people.
Jump on and follow us through this raw and witty roller coaster,
where we get down and dirty and go behind the scenes of life and entrepreneurship.
Get on it,
get over it,
and get after it.
Hey, I'm Lynn.
And I'm Amanda. Welcome to the Pursuit of Badasserie, the podcast.
Yay! I'm super excited to have one of my really good friends who I've known for a long time. Graham is on. He's in our book, not part of our book. He's in our book that's being released. So we're super stoked. And yeah, how many years have we known each other, Graham?
Oh, it's 5 or 6 years now.
Yeah,
Lynn.
5 or 6 years. Yeah. So Graham is a sales expert, definitely, even though he'll downplay a lot of things. He's learned everywhere from the hardcore sales to the relationship sales. And currently he's been working with Dale Carnegie actually for a few years now. And now he's based out of Australia. And remind me again, because you have a certain position that's a very special position with Dale Carnegie, don't you?
Yeah, I'm the director of sales and training in Australia. So we've got the sales team and the trainer team kind of under my watch at the moment.
Yes, he is a force and he is a comic and he's a good friend. I'm really excited to have him on here. So welcome, Graham.
Can we lower the bar just ever so slightly?
Never.
Please manage expectations. Good to see you, Lynn. Hi, Amanda.
Hi. We're never going to lower the bar. Denied.
Ever. Denied like a visa. Hopefully none of the visas. Oh, not manifesting that right now. All right. So let's dive right in, Graham. What was your first experience with sales? How did you get into it?
It's quite interesting kind of thinking about what happened. There was a natural place where I took sales as a full-time job, but my first job selling was actually selling brooms and mops and cleaning equipment door to door when I was about 15. So I managed to get it, and it was just kind of one of those things. It was to earn extra money, didn't think anything of it. Found a company that had a little catalogue. I went out and delivered it, and then went round to get the orders and try to increase them. So that was my first. But sales, kind of my late teens, sales was very attractive because I realised that I could get a free car if I became a salesman. So those were the days where if you were a rep, or what they used to call them in the UK was a traveller, you'd travel around different cities and they would actually give you a car. So my full motivation for being in sales was I wanted a car, nothing else.
That's amazing.
I mean, yeah, it's interesting how especially the old school sales jobs, how they would do that. And they really wanted you to be mobile. And they empowered you enough or equipped you enough to be able to be successful.
It's strange, actually, when you think about it. Everybody talks about working remotely. I was working remotely at 19 because you were out on your own. You were just traveling. You had a kind of a route to go around, and that was it. But I remember the trying to get to that point was not easy. Trying to kind of going through the interviews and trying to work out what does a salesperson actually do. And I know that might seem strange, but when you had companies that were set up and there was global agreements or national agreements, even at that time, what was the role of a salesperson if you're going into a retail shop or a business? And I remember the first job I actually got, first full-time role I got, it was kicked off by getting a letter saying, "You've been unsuccessful." And I got this letter saying, seriously, and it told me I was great. This letter read brilliantly. "Oh, you were amazing at the interview. You were so engaging. Boom, boom, boom. Unfortunately, you do not have the job." So I was a little bit miffed, let's put it that way. I was not happy. So I picked up the phone and I said, "Why?" I mean, probably one of the questions, one of those open word questions that we should be very careful about using the word why. But I did. I went straight on, why have I not got it? And they said, we took someone on with a little bit of experience. And I said very sarcastically, as I maybe do, Lynn, you know that. I said, well, next time, maybe next time don't advertise for a trainee then if you want experience. Right? So that's how we left it. And I had quite a lot of rejection. About 2 days later, I got a phone call again saying, the person we offered it to has not come back to us quickly. Do you want the job? And it was as simple as that. And I went, why? Again. And they just said, you took the initiative. And they actually said to me, you've got a few rough edges we need to smooth, but you took the initiative. Come and see us. And we're still trying to smooth them.
that was only a couple years ago, Graham. That was only a couple years.
I mean, I got it from a rejection and just went, I've had enough of this.
I love that. And I love that's actually even before you got the sales job, although you were selling yourself, essentially. When we go to an interview, it is about selling yourself. And we literally just had this conversation for me last night, but for Amanda in the morning with another person about like being bold and asking those questions in the time where you essentially kind of calling people out, like saying, hey, what, and not necessarily in a rude way or rough around the edges sometimes. However, it is such a tool and such an asset that I feel like even myself, who's a seasoned salesperson, I was hyping myself up a couple of weeks ago because we have something happening. And I was like, all right, I'm going to do that again. Like that old school, like just hitting the phones and like asking those hard questions to people. And there's such value in that.
And I really think the idea of having initiative, because that isn't something that people do as much now. And I'm not trying to like badmouth the current state of affairs. However, having that initiative, having the initiative is so important because like, if you want to even break it down, like Lynn, you were talking about selling yourself. Like, if you have to think about a job interview and you leave a job interview, you think everything's fine. And then you just sit around and you wait to hear from them versus if I have somebody who's applying for a job with me and they call to follow up or they call to check in with anything or ask questions or anything post interview, I'm 1,000 times more likely to put their resume on top than any other situation. I don't care if they aren't as qualified or aren't as trained or aren't as experienced or whatever. I will immediately put them up because they had the initiative. And the same thing goes with sales when it's that active, proactive style of selling rather than just sitting back and waiting for someone to call you. You're taking the initiative to, handle your sales business.
I completely agree, man. It's you've got to be street smart with this stuff. This is not stuff that you can even necessarily learn. It's something you've got to be. And you can learn the techniques of it, but the first part of this is this curiosity, this just instinctive curiosity that I want to know more. And I think as we certainly talking for myself, as you kind of mature, your questions get better and we handle it in a better way. But it's that genuine curiosity of how does this work? Why does that happen? How else can I make myself different? What other opportunities are there? And I think that's a large part of what's missing. People expect it to come to us. We've got this access to so much information. I mean, don't use it. Just don't use it.
Well, not only that, but I think what you're also describing is that like what I would kind of bucket as that hunger, right? That hungriness. And, I know from my history and some of my sales positions, like I didn't have an option. I didn't have a partner. I was raising 2 kids. So I had to be hungry because I had to hustle and put food on the table for my kids, like figuratively and literally. And I think that that's kind of because you don't have to be in that position. You can be, not needing the money. However, you can still have that hunger and tap into that hunger, which does change the game for you. And it changes the experience, in my opinion, for the client or the prospect.
Yep. I pride myself in being a lazy salesperson. I want to find the person who knows the person. I want to have the relationship that's going to last for years rather than that one-off hit. So I've actually never been in that position. When I was selling door to door and brooms and mops and cleaning, I wanted to be able to go back with that catalogue next month and then get something else. I always wanted a reason to be going back. So sometimes we make it really difficult. And as you say, it's that hunger, it's that motivation. What's the motivation? And we'll find that for this, you're on your own, you've got two kids, or you see a target and you're just motivated that you need to hit that number, or you want to say whatever it is, it doesn't matter. It's being able to tap into that personally.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So what do you think is sort of the biggest lesson in sales that you've learned?
Getting it wrong, failing. I mean, I've lost sales jobs. I'm quite comfortable with that. And 9 times out of 10, it's always easy to look back and go, that wasn't fair or something. And do you know what? It probably was. It probably was. I wasn't performing, or I wasn't doing kind of the right things, or I maybe even just got a little bit too relaxed about it. So that was one of the biggest lessons. Another one I do remember was an order's never an order till it's an order, until you've got it. And I remember there was a job in Northern England. We'd been after this for quite a while. It was a construction project. I got a call from the architect about 3 o'clock in the afternoon saying, "We're going with you. We're all in. Graham, great job. Come and see us at lunchtime tomorrow, and we'll get all the final paperwork done." So I went out and celebrated. We had a great night. Great night. It was a big job, very prestigious. My competitors worked through the night and got to them first thing in the morning with an incredible proposal. By the time I got there, it was lost. And that was honestly, that was one of the biggest falls I ever took. I'd say it was a very unusual one. Competitors did a stunning job. I would still question whether the buyer should have gone with that. And why it wasn't done first place. But we could hypothesize all day. The sheer fact, I thought it was there and it was gone by the time I turned around. So I tend not to take the lows now. That's probably one of the biggest lessons. So I take the highs, I celebrate when it's good, but quickly. That means I don't have to take the lows. Try to keep it as balanced as possible.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, I'm sorry that you went through that. It is a great lesson, though. However, I've had a couple of those as well. And it's almost like the don't count your chickens before they're hatched type of thing. And it's interesting that I actually have I have a client who does this a lot, and like he will essentially talk all about like getting this job and like, but really they haven't signed on the dotted line. There hasn't been any money exchanged. And then, you follow up with them a week later and, or 2 weeks later, what about that client? Oh, well, this excuse or that excuse. And it's just this pattern with them. And I try to have a conversation with them. They're no longer a client, but I try to have a conversation with them to say, hey, common denominator, like we need to like fix something here, but it goes in one ear out the other. And that whole celebration before it is actually counting the chickens before it's hatched could be in detriment to, in the long run, you're creating this pattern of like actually not closing the sale. You're not going through with the process.
The worst I ever worked in, I worked with a business that was early 2000s. And it took me a few weeks to realize what was happening. We were actually celebrating the opportunity to quote. So as soon as an inquiry came in, it was happy days. People were not actually, that was as much of the blue sky that they were on. I know it sounds really strange, but I was then going in and saying, well, when does this project start? Or when does that happen? Oh, we didn't win it. But hold on, we went out and had a few drinks. It was all good. And it was genuinely, we got a request for information, a request for a proposal or something like that. We've got it's a people take as many wins. I see that as a big sign of insecurity, especially within sales. Salespeople take any sort of win whatsoever. somebody picked up the phone, somebody had this great conversation, said they might want to speak to me again in 6 months' time if it's not raining. I don't know. There's all these, it's just grabbing anything that people can. We need to keep that balance. It's one of the most difficult things in sales, is just being able to step back and look at things from a slight distance and logically. Is this real? And keep on checking in on it.
Well, not only
But
that,
I think-
but is it results? Sorry, Amanda, is it results? Like, I come from old school sales where we had quotas, and I was also, and I do want to get into relationship development, or the lazy sales way, because that is something I know I really want you to talk about. However, like those little, I'm not saying that there aren't some micro successes to celebrate or to analyze. However, you are only, the old saying, you're only as good as your last sale. Like, if people, your true old school sales, they only care about the quota being hit and the numbers and the consistency of it. They don't care what you did last month. It's about this month. And I'm not everybody needs to be the hard school sales, old school type of person. However, like, you're failing yourself and your potential clients if you are not going through with that action, like going to that actual sale of the client, or the crossing over, right? And it drives me crazy. Sorry, Amanda, I know you had something to say.
No, I was just saying that when I started out in sales, I very much, I mean, you're saying that it sounds like somebody's insecure, but I think that I did that when I was first started sales. It was like, I would celebrate anything. I'm like, oh my God, this person didn't hang up after me. I hang up on me after 2 minutes. Like, I actually was able to finish my pitch. And it's almost like you have these little pep talks with yourself, and you're celebrating in advance because you just kind of suck at that point. Like, you're getting so many rejections, and you're like grasping at anything to make it feel like you're going forward and moving forward. But yeah, I mean, when I was in sales, it was definitely like the most important sale is the next one, not the one you just did. It's always the next sale. But yes, I feel like I definitely use those small celebrations that were meaningless and ill-founded, because often they were like, oh, I got a phone call, but that it didn't mean a sale. It was just a phone call. But I would celebrate them because I was green, and I just was looking for anything to like boost my morale as I just take 100 no's.
It's interesting because the way that the people are coming into sales now, from what I'm seeing, you don't go through that kind of that quota part of it. And as much as I'm into relationship selling, the reason that the quota driven sales was such a good grounding is it works. It begins to it moves us. So I actually think there's a place for it all.
I agree.
It's where I prefer to be. But it's a whole mix, and people say, well, you should never cold call, or you shouldn't do that. Absolutely not. It's a mix. And sometimes we need, like you said, Lynn, you did it a couple of weeks ago. Sometimes we just need to go back to that. Just be picking up the phone or getting into networking events where we're slightly uncomfortable and just getting into meeting. Just have those conversations. It's all about the number of conversations we have. That's all it's about. The more conversations, the more business.
Absolutely. You've got to talk about your business to have a business.
Absolutely. Hey, I definitely want to have you dig a little bit into the lazy salesperson technique, because it's something that you and I have. We were a part of an organization that we taught this kind of stuff, and at one point, way back in the day. However, it's something that's both innate in both of us, like building those relationships. Even when I hit those quotas, like I hit those quotas because I had relationships. Like, I had people I could call last minute to be like, man, I need like 10 more cell phones sold. Can you help me out? Right. So tell us a little bit about that, and what are some takeaways of the lazy sales way, as you called it?
It's interesting. I still know people from over 20 years ago who I used to sell to. The movement from selling products to kind of services and something slightly intangible is huge. And to me, that all of that comes down to trust. All of it. People don't trust you, they're not going to buy from you. It's as simple as that. Especially in something they can't pick up and feel. And even if they don't like you, if it bounces, then they'll buy it. It's supposed to bounce, that is. But when it's more intangible, it's then onto your own credibility, and that takes a little bit of time. I see that it's really difficult when we talk about quotas, because people say to me, well, how many conversations do I need to have that to happen? And I can never answer it. I just know if you do lots of good things and are curious and have good conversations, it comes back. So if you need to speak to certain people, get in the room that they're in. That's the biggest part. Break it down. And Amanda, coming back to, I'm not even always talking about our business. You know, we're just getting to understand whether we can work together. We still have a little bit of a laugh at this. I was asked to jump on a Zoom call for a company that we've ended up working with, and this was the first pitch in it. And he said, anything that you want to, he says, what did you want out of this meeting? Was their question to me at the end. I said, I want you to understand whether I could actually work with you or not. And he kind of stopped. He went, excuse me? And I went, no, we need to decide if we can work with you as well. So only way it will be successful. And I think we can have some fun. So I'm in for it. Are you? And that was almost a close. And being able to just have those, I think it comes with maturity. In other words, me being old, is being able to have those conversations and just honestly say to somebody, do you know what? I think we could have a lot of fun and make this really work together. And have those kind of conversations. And that's what I want to do more of, Lynn. I want to work with people I want to work with. The relationships that I've got with people who I've not sold anything to for 20 years, I still know them. They're friends. And that's just how things have evolved. And it just, my guess is, and we both worked in this, Lynn, and I'm sure, Amanda, you know this, if I know Lynn and get on well with Lynn, and Lynn gets on with Amanda, we're likely to get on as well. So it's just extending that network. So it's not about going networking, it's about building a really good network of people around you.
Yeah,
I don't know if that kind of answers the question.
No, it does. And it develops relationships. And I think that it is a, man, we are talking, all of us must be very mature on this phone, because I'm about to say something.
I've got myself, nobody else. Just...
with how I feel like nowadays with, like, you know, so much stimulation and everybody in their phones and all of that, like the relationship building aspect there, it should be something that should come easy to us. However, it is, I don't want to say it's a lost art. It's not as used as what it should be. And I feel like it is so important. And exactly, actually, one of the people that I had from when I was selling pagers and cell phones follows me on Facebook, and every once in a while he'll like message me and say, hey, it's great to see you. Like that was like 25 years ago. And so I think that you're speaking gold, and you know, like we're very much in alignment with that type of selling and relationship. Even when I was selling Cutco cutlery, like, which should have been like door knocking as well, like I still built relationships, and that's how you get referrals, or that's how you get testimonials. That's how you create a better community. That's how you create more stability. Even if you take it outside of the business aspect, it helps you create roots that are different, that allow you to withstand the storms, versus when you're not building the relationships and you can be just flattened out.
Yeah. Completely agree.
Absolutely.
So that's kind of that's the approach. Is let's talk to as many good people as possible. Good stuff happens then.
It really does.
It's easy. Honestly.
Absolutely. So what's one thing that you love about sales, or you can say that you don't like? What's either the number one thing you love or the number one thing you don't like?
I think the love is the opportunities it's given me. I mean, I'm originally from Scotland. Worked a long time in England and traveled there, then New York, now Sydney, and you know, there's not many professions that you can get when you've got a stupid Scotsman doesn't get those opportunities very often. One of the things I dislike, and I think it's it comes back to the perception of sales. I think where a lot of people go wrong is there's this perceived thing of how they should talk or how we should act or how we should be around people to be able to pitch and all this, pitch your business. I know we've been involved and you see it in networking groups. We've been involved, Lynn. I've yet to see anybody buy something after 60 seconds. It just doesn't work. So it's about information gathering. So I actually think most people are clumsy at sales who don't get it. I think a lot of the language is clumsy, and they're deliberately trying to kind of push people into a corner because that's what they think they should do, or they think that that's what they should be saying next, rather than just having an open conversation. So I actually put down some of the things I dislike is that sales almost leads itself to people being clumsy with conversations. And we just need to be ourselves. It's all good. No matter what happens, it's all good.
Love that. I love that. I think that a lot of people think they have to be like a specific type of person to be in sales. Like, I have to say it this way. I mean, we have to think of sales scripts, and like you pick up the phone, and you're just smile dial, read the script, and you think you have to be that exact way. But that's great that you said, like, you really have to be yourself, because that's the best way to sell it, is to sell yourself as you are and not try to be something that you're not when you're selling and in general.
Just have fun. There is no wrong way of selling to that extent. There's wrong things we can say, things that are not going to work. But if we're just ourselves, we'll find our own words. That's why I've always struggled with sales scripts, always, because it's not necessarily my words. So how do we get it into being authentic? Because that's one of the first things. It is really, really instinctive for us to understand when somebody's being inauthentic. It's something. There's a protection within us to spot when somebody's not being totally true or be truthful or lying, like lying. We need to be ourselves. So it's just we don't have to be anybody else.
I agree. I love that. And it's interesting that you say that about sales scripts. We won't go down that rabbit hole because we're almost at the end and we don't have enough time. However,
that might be controversial.
What I love about that, because I do enjoy sales scripts. However, not in the traditional way like what I was handed. I like it as high level bullet points to be able to make sure that I'm like following my flow. But you made such a valid point. I can remember going toe to toe with a particular individual that they wanted me to follow a very specific sales script to sell a $40,000-$50,000 thing. You know who I'm talking about, probably, Graham. And I was like, no, it has to feel like me. That is your voice. I will still go through those points. However, I'm going to make it in a way that feels authentic to me, because it has to feel, we don't speak the same, the two of us. And so I think that that's really important point that you made, is like, yeah, traditional sales scripts that are being forced, where you're not able to like actually put your own personality and energy to it, isn't going to work. It can, because it's a numbers game at that point. However, if you have your high level points that you want to look at or follow, and you can make it your own, that's where you're going to see the success. Because we tend to have, if we've been in that position or selling the same thing over and over again, we tend to have the same flow. It may change in the way that it goes, and kind of like even our podcast, like we have the same kind of flow. Some of the questions may change. However, they feel the same because they're authentic to us. They're authentic to our guests. It'd be the same thing sitting down with a prospect, you know?
We put so much pressure on salespeople, tend to put so much pressure on themselves that they need to have all the answers to everything.
No,
they need to know every single thing. And all I keep on saying to our guys is, look, there's no one size fits all for what we do. So show your workings out. If somebody asks you a question that you don't know, show them that you're thinking about the question. You're actually considering it. Oh, hold on, let me think. Not considered that before. And if we need to go back to them, we need to go back to them. It doesn't matter. But actually show that you're working it through, rather than just this Here's an answer.
Hands down. My favorite
No.
was when I was new in sales. In fact, I brought on somebody new for a client and I've trained her in sales. And I told her, listen, my favorite when I was new is to say, I'm new, I'm not sure. Let me find out for you. Like, but that's kind of the same thing that you're just saying. Like, don't just give an answer to give an answer. Like, if you don't have it, either think about it and formulate, an opinion around it, or tell them you'll get back to them.
And if you're in a sales meeting, there's a number of people there and you get asked a question, when you give a reaction like, I don't know, that is an icebreaker. That is a proper icebreaker. People get an insight into, you got to be really, sometimes some people say you got to be brave to do it, but it's a great question. I have no idea. Let me find out. And you can just see people relaxing because just be genuine about it. There's we don't need to do anything, but show your workings out. Show that you're actually doing it. And when you say you're going to get back, so obviously get back. That's a credibility piece. If you don't, then a whole lot of questions are raised. But show that you're thinking about it. It's good fun. It's good fun.
Absolutely.
Well, we are just about at time. I feel like I want to talk with you more, but I can't. Got a time limit here. We do respect your time.
Is that Lynn?
It's our general respect your time, respect our listeners' time. Can our listeners get in contact with you and learn more from you?
Two ways. First way is really easy. Find me on LinkedIn. There are about 3 Graham Dobbins in the world. I'm the only one with a photographic Grand Central. You can't miss me. Or catch me at graham@grahamdobbin.com. There you go. That's as easy as it is.
And those will be and those will be in the show notes as well. So in case you are curious about the spelling, it will be right there in the show notes.
Absolutely. Graham, it's always such a pleasure to have a chat with you.
Likewise.
And thank you again for contributing to our book, which should be coming out in soon.
Seconds.
In seconds.
Feels like it.
When this posts, yes. And also being on our podcast. I'm sure we're going to see you in the Pursuit of Badasserie network again very soon.
Thank you for asking me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Till next time, Amanda.
Get after it.
Take care.
All right, everyone. It's not enough to just listen.
Now you've got to put it into action.
We are so excited to see what you do next.
If you enjoyed our show, please leave us a review on iTunes.
And to find out more about what we're doing, visit us at thepursuitofbadasserie.com.